and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Rohit Paradkar and these are three generations of the KTM 390 Duke. This is what debuted in 2013, took the market by a storm. Then came the 2017 model with that absolutely gorgeous sharp styling, the big exhaust, the bolt-on subframe, and of course an improved engine. And there we have it, the third generation of the KTM 390 Duke. That is what I'm going to give you a closer look at. And before we go there, here's one quick glance at all three generations of the KTM 390 Duke for you to get a good view of the evolution. Now moving on to the third generation model. It runs an all new frame. You can see the frame right here. This is a good angle for you to understand the front end, the orange part, that's the trellis frame, that's the main frame of the motorcycle, and what you see behind is the die-cast aluminium subframe. It's still a bolt-on frame, but now you get the aluminium subframe and not a trellis at the rear. You also get this aluminium swing arm, there's the new headlight and the new wheel. The wheel has a much lighter design now. The unsprung mass for this wheel is much lesser, so that clearly has its advantages in terms of the handling. How much is something that I'm going to tell you in my review of the vehicle. But for now, let's get a closer look at the third generation of the 390 Duke. Let's begin with the styling. That is of course the main bit, the new headlight. So these are the LED DRLs. These are going to light up as the daytime running lights. These are the actual lighting elements, the LED lighting elements. There is a bit of play in here for these, and that's something that we will need on our road so that they don't break apart very easily. But they are floating units. They are units that sit independently of the headlight assembly, and I think it looks quite nice. Just for comparison's sake, this is the headlight of the second generation model, where the DRLs were integrated within the lighting elements itself. Here the DRLs sit outside and they have this split design to them. The indicators are still the same as the older ones, so no real change there. But if you look at the tank shrouds, they now extend way further ahead compared to the outgoing model, and that really makes it stand out from the crowd, especially compared to its own siblings, the 250, the 125, etc. The tank shrouds on the 390 are going to be much longer, and that's going to be the easiest way to identify, apart from of course the decals on it that read 390. But if you see a 390 Duke with a custom paint job, you are essentially going to identify the 390 with the longer tank shrouds. In fact, if you look at the tank element also looks quite big in the new design, especially if we were to look at the much leaner design of the second generation model. Compared to that, on the third generation, the tank looks a lot larger, it looks a lot broader. So this is now increased in capacity. You have 13.15 liter capacity on the second generation Duke. This is now up to 15 liters, and this is a metal tank. Of course, the angle of the tank is such that you will still not be able to put any magnetic tank bags on it. You are still better off with a tank bag that has a ring mechanism for the attachment. That will be much better. But yeah, this is a new compact tank unit which is still higher on capacity, and it looks larger than the outgoing motorcycle. The other bit between the suspension elements, between the chassis elements, is of course the new suspension, the offset monoshock suspension. Now this is something that I had a lot of reservations about before getting into the review. What I feel about it is going to be something that I have to hold back for the review given the embargo. Yeah, this is the new suspension setup. It gets 5 levels of rebound adjustment that you can do. So you can adjust the rebound, and you can also adjust the preload as always. So you will need the C-spanner for the preload. You will be able to adjust the rebound, 5 clicks of rebound using a screwdriver right here. And similarly, even at the front, KTM India or Bajaj have given us fully adjustable suspension. So you have compression adjustment on the left leg, and you have rebound adjustment on the right leg, and you can use it with your thumb. You don't really need any specialized tools for that. So adjustable suspension is not available as a different variant or something. It is available on the 390 Duke by default. So that is very good news. Now At the heart of the matter is the new engine, is the 399cc engine. So it's up by 26 PS in terms of, it's up by 26 cc in terms of the displacement. So now this is a new higher displacement engine to go with the more stringent emission norms. And with this new suspension setup, they're also able to put in a larger airbox in there, which is again done for the newer emission norms, the more stringent emission norms. But with the increase in displacement, you've also got better power. So the previous second generation Duke, the engine put out 43.5 PS of power and 37 Newton meters of torque. The Gen 3 on the other hand puts out 46 PS of power and 39 Newton meters of torque. The power and torque is also coming at about 500 RPM earlier in the rev range, and 80% of the power and torque is available from as low as 5000 RPM is what KTM India or Bajaj is telling us. What they've also changed is the radiator. You can see the flat, absolutely flat radiator on this. Compared to that, you get a curved radiator on the new 390s. So it's not just a curved radiator, you also get two fans. So the overall cooling efficiency has increased compared to the outgoing model is what Bajaj tells us. Now I keep coming back to this rear suspension. Now with this new arrangement, you're also getting a lower seat height. So the India spec model gets 800mm seat height by default. The export model gets 820mm seat height, and if you want the 820mm seat height, then with certain modifications to the mounting of the seat, you will be able to bring it back to 820 if you so wish. And again, with this new geometry, you're also getting improved ground clearance. You're getting 183mm of ground clearance now, and that's quite a bit compared to the 151mm on the second generation of the Duke. So 180mm of ground clearance is what you get. The tire sizes, they remain the same, there's no change there. So you get a 110 section up front, you get a 150 section at the rear. The export model gets Michelin Power 5 tires. India spec 390 Duke gets the Metzeler M5s. Now we had previously seen the M5s also on the second generation of the Duke, but compared to the previous model, there is a slight change to the compound is what Bajaj and KTM are telling us. They are not telling us exactly what they've changed or what they were gunning for with the updated model, but yeah, there is a slight change. There is what we are told. In terms of the disc sizes or the brake sizes, the front disc still remains a 320mm. That was the same case with the Gen 2 as well. But if you see the design, there is a big change in design. There is a change in where it's mounted as well. This is mounted on the left hand side. This one is mounted on the right hand side. It's also got a much sleeker design now, and it is mounted on the hub a little towards the front. You can see that. You can see the mounting points right here. It's not on the hub, sorry, it's on the alloy directly, on the spokes of the alloys. It's not on the hub. So again, that whole idea of reducing the unsprung mass, you can see that right here. You still get the radial mounted calipers by Bray, and the disc at the rear has gone up by 10mm. It is now a 240 section rear disc compared to the 230 on the outgoing Duke 390. So the overall power to weight has gone up. It was 253 PS to the ton for the second generation model. It's now 273 PS to the ton for the third generation of the Duke. Here's I'm going to try and give you a slightly different angle, a slightly different look of the motorcycle. So like I said, adjustable suspension, all new chassis, all new engine. That is what essentially sums up the third generation of the 390 Duke. Now let's also try and take a look at the TFT. Okay, there's no key on this motorcycle. I'm just going to go to another motorcycle and show that to you. But before we do that, let's also take a look at the rear end of the motorcycle. There you have the older Dukes for reference, the first generation followed by the second and the third. So if you see the rider's seat on the third generation model has decreased in size a little bit. You can also have it in full orange depending on the color that you choose. There you can see the second generation model. Please excuse the few errors that I may be making while talking. It's really hot and humid right now out here. Please bear with me. The rear seat is also slightly different on the design. You see this stopper element right here for the rider. It really works well on the track. and the rear seat is running a slightly different design. It's running a slightly thicker cushioning as well. And what I also like are the kind of textures that they've used on the seat. It just makes it feel more premium. In fact, you will also see those textures right here on these plastic panels right behind the tank shrouds. I think it all comes together quite nicely. The exhaust is back to an underbelly design. On the second generation model, there was a proper stick out exhaust compared to the first gen. The first gen again had an underbelly, and now the third generation model also gets this underbelly exhaust. This LC4C is the new engine family for the new Dukes, and that's not, even if you see the 4 there, it's not just the 400s, it is also the 250, 200, 125, etc. So this is the new family of engines from KTM for the third generation of the smaller single cylinder Dukes. Now let's go to the other motorcycle and take a look at the TFT instrumentation. There's a key on this, so let's take a look at the TFT instrumentation. I think that TFT on the new one looks really good. The bezels are quite thick. They could have been a little slimmer for a 2024 motorcycle, but yeah, this is what your layout looks like. Okay, so let's go into the menus. This is your new switch cube. I hope it withstands the test of time. I am not really digging the tactile feel of it. It's not up to the mark. We've seen better from Bajaj. We've seen better switchgear on the Triumph lately. But yeah, coming back to the TFT, I think the TFT by itself looks very nice. The menus, the animations, the overall design are quite nicely done in my opinion. So like I said, there are different riding modes now. So let's go into the riding modes. Now here we have street, track, rain. So rain is going to restrict the power and torque. It's going to reduce the amount of power and torque that is being provided by the engine. The street and the track modes will give you full power, full torque. The intrusion from the ABS and the traction control will also change as you go up from rain all the way to track, track being the least intrusive, rain being the most intrusive. And to select a particular riding mode, you have to long press on this switch and then it gets selected. Now if we go into ABS, there are 2 modes for the ABS as well. So here you have road and supermoto. So you can see the change in animation. So essentially supermoto is going to turn off the ABS on the rear wheel. So that's going to be the difference. Again, long press on this switch to engage the mode that you want. Traction control. There is the traction control which can be turned on or off, and honestly here on the track, at the Bajaj track, I have had more fun riding this motorcycle with the traction control off. Now this one you have to keep pressed for slightly longer because it's a safety feature that you're turning off. So to turn that off, you have to press it for slightly longer. And then you have the launch control. Now launch control is only available with the track mode. So I had selected track mode in the ride mode. Now I can get launch control as well. Also remember, launch control can only be used thrice in one go. So you can only use it thrice. After that, the gearbox I think is going to overheat. So to protect the gearbox, they are not going to let you use launch control again till the engine cools down completely. So 3 times is what you will be able to use launch control. It launches at about 5000 RPM. It locks at about 5000 RPM when you're revving it, and it will launch at that. It will also prevent the vehicle from wheeling under launch control so that you can get those perfect launches that you want. A sub 6 second 0 to 100 is what you will get if you get that launch right, and that I think is a very quick timing. So those were the different ride modes. Now let's go and see what other information the bike gives you. Here you get the coolant temperature, the fuel range, battery voltage, odometer, and if there are any service indicators that come on, that will be available here. This is all your trip info, trip 1, trip 2, it will tell you the distance, it will tell you the trip time, the average consumption, the average speed that you have been following for that particular trip. And then finally in these settings, here we have favorites, and here you can choose different favorites. So you can see there are 4 little icons at the bottom, so you can choose what do you want to display over there. So you can customize the display in that sense. Then there is the quick selector. If you want to use these as hotkeys, you can do that with the quick selector. Like you can simply just use these to change the ride modes instead of having to go all the way through the menus, etc. in terms of connectivity, you have Bluetooth pairing, and that Bluetooth will allow you to pair with your phone, with your headset, and you can also choose headset type, whether it's a Bluetooth headset or a corded headset. So you can also make those selections right here, which I think is very good. It is not going to connect to your GoPro and connect to your GoPro. That functionality is not available yet. That is available on the new RT-R310. Here you can turn on or off the quick shifter. So the quick shifter is an optional extra on some of the other export models, but in India it comes as default, which is again good news. And if you're riding on the track, here in the shift light, you can choose where you want the shift light to be. So these are the different modes, and in the track mode, this is the kind of layout that you get. But if I were to change the riding modes and go to, okay, the track mode is also going to give you a lap timer. And now if I were to change the riding mode to street, we are going to get a slightly different layout. So you can see the change in layout, and in the favorites, these are the 4 elements that you could essentially change. So depending on what information you want here handy, you can do that. All the readouts for the traction control, ABS, etc. The rear ABS is off, front ABS is on, traction control, engine readouts, all of that is right here. So not too many telltale lights on the bezels. It is only on the screen, which is all the more reason why I want the bezels to be slightly thinner, but they aren't. So yeah, that is the switch gear. This is the new switch gear, the switch cube, etc. Like I said, this is the only drawback on the motorcycle, so to say. It's just feeling a little low end compared to what we've seen from Bajaj Triumph also in the past. Or in the recent times, and that is something that I would have want to see slightly better quality. But overall, this is the motorcycle. I think this is the better looking color. Unfortunately, the other motorcycles are out now, so I can't show you the orange color, but there is an all orange color as well, which also gets you that orange seat. But in my opinion, the blue one looks a lot better. Let me know what do you think about this motorcycle, and use the comment section to drop in whatever questions you have. Our review is going to be out in a couple of days after uploading this walk around, so stay tuned to the review as well. And if you have any questions in the meantime, like I said, just put them in the comments below, and I'll try to come back to this video and try and answer all of them personally. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until the next one, take care and ride safe.